Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. Prove me wrong. If Jesus isn't God, then why did he call himself Lord of the Sabbath, a title that belongs only to God? In Mark 2:28, Jesus says, "The Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." But in the Old Testament, the Sabbath was created and commanded by God alone. Skeptics, can you explain this? The accusation. It was the Sabbath day, a day of rest set apart by God himself. Jesus and his disciples walked through a field of grain, their stomachs empty after hours of traveling. As they walked, the disciples plucked heads of grain, rubbing them between their hands and eating. Suddenly, a group of Pharisees appeared, watching closely. "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" they demanded. According to their strict traditions, plucking grain was considered work, and work was forbidden on the Sabbath. They were waiting for Jesus to slip up, to break God's law. But instead of apologizing, Jesus responded with a question of his own. Jesus' response. Have you never read what David did when he was hungry and in need? How he entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which is only lawful for the priests. The Pharisees knew this story well, but they had never understood its meaning. David, God's anointed king, was not condemned for eating the holy bread. Why? Because human need is more important than ritualistic rules. Then, Jesus spoke words that no prophet, no priest, no teacher had ever dared to say. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord, even of the Sabbath. Mark 2:27-28. The Pharisees were furious. Jesus wasn't just interpreting the law, he was claiming authority over it. Who created the Sabbath? The Sabbath wasn't just any law. It was God's commandment. In 6 days, the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day, he rested. Exodus 20:11. The Sabbath is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. Exodus 31:17. The Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. Mark 2:28. The Sabbath was established by God himself. No prophet ever claimed to rule over the Sabbath. No angel ever declared authority over God's holy day. But Jesus did. If only God has authority over the Sabbath, then who is Jesus? The Sabbath healer. The very next Sabbath, Jesus entered a synagogue where a man with a withered hand was sitting. The Pharisees were watching him closely. "Will he heal on the Sabbath?" they whispered. To them, healing was work, and work was forbidden on the Sabbath. Jesus, knowing their hearts, asked, "Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath, or to do evil? To save life, or to kill?" No one dared to answer. Then Jesus healed the man on the spot. The Pharisees were outraged. "We must destroy him," they conspired. Why? Because Jesus was proving that he had the authority to define the Sabbath, and they couldn't accept it. The challenge to skeptics. Here's the challenge. If Jesus isn't God, explain this. The Old Testament says, "The Sabbath is a sign between me and my people forever." Exodus 31:10. Yet Jesus says, "The Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." Mark chapter 2:28. If only God has authority over the Sabbath, then why does Jesus claim this title? If Jesus isn't God, why does he declare lordship over God's holy day? No prophet ever made this claim. No angel ever took this title. No religious leader ever dared to say this. So if Jesus isn't God, prove me wrong. The unshakable truth. Jesus wasn't just a teacher. He is Lord of the Sabbath. He is the one who established it. He is the fulfillment of true rest in God, and his promise still stands today. "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew chapter 11:28, closing and call to action. The question is, do you believe it? If you believe Jesus is God, type "Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath" in the comments. If you don't, explain this passage. For more powerful Bible truths, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. Will you accept him today?